Quick stories. What is the nicest thing you've ever done that no one knows about?
When I lived in the city, an older lady about 90 got her apt robbed in my building. They went in and stole all her cash and took some valuables that she had. She did not have a bank account, so the thieves took about 30K the lady's life savings. She was afraid of being evicted for the apt because she wouldn't have the rent money and did not want to end up in a state-run nursing home. I called the landlord and paid her rent in full for the rest of the year, 5 months worth, and told the landlord not to tell her it was me. I also had groceries delivered to her once a week for the next 2 months until she had some money saved from her social security checks. I never told anyone what I had done for her, and I don't think she even knew my name because the apt building had about 50 apartments in it. The landlord was the only one who knew, and he wanted to tell her what I was doing, but I told him that I would deny it. I did not want her to feel indebted to me. She posted a letter in the lobby of the building to thank whoever had helped her. I took the letter down and kept it. The landlord still writes to me every few months to tell me how she is doing. She is still living in the apt 7 years later. I never told anyone.
I heard a fight outside my apt. One night, I looked outside and saw the fight, but couldn't tell if it was a man beating up a woman or a teenage boy. I couldn't find my glasses. I called 911 and told them what I saw, and while I was on the phone, the man started dragging the other person around the corner of the building. I told the operator that I couldn't see them anymore and that I had to go. Contemplating bringing a weapon with me as I threw on shoes and pants, I decided it would be best to go barehanded. If the other guy had a gun or something, he would have already used it to subdue his victim. I ran outside and quickly scanned the area, and bam, there he was on top of this woman. He had stripped her and thrown her clothes on top of an 8-hedge. He was about to rape her. I hollered at him to get up and told her to come stand behind me. It was January and she was naked and freezing. I quickly took off my coat and gave it to her, never taking my eyes off the guy. Now at the time I was in very good shape and probably looked a lot tougher than I do today. This was nearly 20 years ago. The guy looked like he might try to fight me, but I told him that I had called the cops and that they'd be here any minute, and that his best bet was to get in his car and get the hell out of there. I got his lick plate as he drove off. The first thing the girl says is, "Can you get my underpants, please?" So I climbed the fence next to the hedge and got all her stuff. I let her go into my apt and lock herself in the bathroom while we waited for the cops.
I was in a hurry and stopped at a gas station to fill up. While I was outside my car, a man came up to me and asked if I could spare a buck or two for gas. He, his wife, and his daughter were traveling but were broke and barely made it to the station. They had a broken down old Volvo, and it was clear that they were vagabonds of some sort who lived in their car. The kid was at most 2 years old. I was pretty low on cash myself, but I thought, hey, what the hell? I could use some affirmation that people can be kind if I were in their situation. So I swiped my card at their pump and said, "Fill it up. Good luck to you and your family. I hope this can get you where you're going," and walked away. He started crying as I left, and I would have lost it too if I wasn't too proud to do so in public. To see a grown man cry like that, both for having received an unexpected gift and for having to be put in the position of begging to keep his family safe, was one of the most profound experiences of my life. I haven't told anyone until now.
Well, it's not me personally, but my great uncle was a quiet guy. He wasn't around much. He lived in a small town. But when he died, a lot of people came to the funeral, way more than expected. Turns out he'd spent a lot of his time volunteering, visiting with old folks, talking with people in hospice, the food pantry, etc., etc. He never told anyone. When he died, all the people from these different volunteer organizations showed up along with the people he'd helped. Line was around the block to the funeral.
When I was working as a summer job in our local hospital, I got paged to a room by a patient. Usually what they wanted for me to do is shift their position or get them some water or something similar. This time the old lady asked me to come to her and take her hand. She told me, "I don't want to die alone." I assured her that she would not die alone. After a few silent moments of her just staring at me smiling, she said, "Thank you, goodbye." And then she died.
One day, I was on my way to a job interview when I saw a man crawling down the side of the road. About 100 yards away, I saw a car crashed into a tree and assumed that this man had been in that car. So I pulled over, got out of the car, and talked to the guy to make sure he was all right. He said he was, but clearly he wasn't. His injuries weren't life-threatening by any means, but he was scratched, bruised, disoriented, and old. I offered to take him to the hospital, but he wouldn't have it. He didn't have the money, he said, and with a little more prodding eventually released that his niece is a nurse and she could get him cleaned up. I asked him where she lived. It was about a 45-minute drive. I told him to get in my car and I drove him there. Sure enough, his niece cleaned him up, and after some rest, he was okay. I missed my job interview. I never told anyone why I didn't get the job.
I was day tripping to Vancouver from Seattle and stopped in for lunch at a little cafe. From my window, I saw a young teenage girl out in the cold, squatted down in a closed-up business's doorway, holding a small bundle in her arms. She was panhandling. People were mostly walking by, ignoring her. She looked just broken. I finished up my meal and went outside, went through my wallet, and thought I'd give her $5 for some food. I got up to her and she was sobbing. She looked like she was 14 to 15, and that bundle in her arms was a baby wrapped up. I felt like I just got punched in the chest. She looked up, putting on a game face, and asked for any change. I asked her if she's like some lunch. Right next door was a small Quick Trip type grocery store. I got a can of formula for the baby, very young, maybe 2 to 3 months old, and took her back to the cafe, though I'd just eaten. She was very thankful, got a burger and just inhaled it. Got her some pie and ice cream. She opened up and we talked. She was 15, got pregnant, parents were angry and she was fighting with them. She ran away. She's been gone almost 1 full year. I asked her if she's like to go home and she got silent. I coaxed her. She said her parents wouldn't want her back. I coaxed further. She admitted she stole $5K in cash from her dad. Turns out $5K doesn't last long at all, and the streets are tough on a 15-year-old. Very tough. She did want to go back, but she was afraid no one wanted her back after what she did. We talked more. I wanted her to use my phone to call home, but she wouldn't. I told her I'd call and see if her folks wanted to talk to her. She hesitated and gave bad excuses, but eventually agreed. She dialed the number and I took the phone. Her mom picked up and I said hello. Awkwardly introduced myself and said her daughter would like to speak to her. Silence, and I heard crying. Gave the phone to the girl and she was just quiet listening to her mom cry, and then said hello, and she cried. They talked. She gave the phone back to me. I talked to her mom some more. I drove her down to the bus station and bought her a bus ticket home. Gave her $100 cash for incidentals and some formula, diapers, wipes, snacks for the road. Got to the bus and she just cried, saying thank you over and over. I gave her a kiss on the forehead and a hug, kissed her baby, and she got on the bus. I get a Christmas card every year from her. She's 21 now and in college. Her name is Michaela and her baby was Joe. I've never really told anyone about this. I just feel good knowing I did something good in this world. Maybe it'll make up for the things I've effed up.